Welcome back to Morning Musings and Midnight Chats with Nigel and Nat. Good evening, Nigel.
I'm Nigel. You're Nat.
Anyway.
E.
Oh, folks, we got a lot to talk about tonight. Actually, there's a lot on my mind. And I will say this. Nigel and I, we talk about the different resources or sources, things that we hear, things that we read, and who is legit. Now, he and I get into a lot of debate over what we consider a legitimate source. Or if somebody is writing a book. Well, anybody can write a book. And as many of you know, and this is my thing, either I find that resources, books are out of date. Okay, if something is out of date, they may be talking about a situation where now the situation is different. The players have changed. The issue that is being discussed has a completely different context. And so that's why I look at dated material. I kind of find it irrelevant. Not with every subject, but with a lot of different topics. I find that if it's too dated, if you're talking about something that somebody wrote in the early 80s, I'm sorry, it doesn't apply now.
No, it
doesn't apply.
Keep it fresh.
And
keep it fresh.
The other thing is now with the use of AI, people are using AI just to produce books left and right. And a lot of the time, at least I can tell, because I've spent a lot of time now talking to AI, and there are certain catchphrases, there are certain things that are just repetitive because it's programmed to respond in a certain way. When I read, I just bought this book. I have an example for you. I just bought this book about a couple of months ago. I was really interested in learning more about Appalachia and the folklore so that we could delve into some of these other topics that interest us. Why can't you go outside at night in the Appalachian Mountains? Why? What's the big deal? So I bought this book and it looked legit. It looked, everything looked good, had good reviews. But upon reading this, I'm realizing this person, and I'm not going to name names because I don't want to insult the author, but I can tell you, I can say that half of it is AI generated. Yeah. This was AI generated. And so, again, you and I go back and forth as to what is a legitimate source of information, who is really an authority. And, most people do look to the New York Times as having legitimacy because of...
That's unfortunate.
Well, no, because in the past, they have been known to have journalists that were serious about what they were doing. They cared enough to try and be as truthful as possible. Has that changed? Well, unfortunately, they've been, how many of these newspapers have been bought? The one person that says that, oh, this is all fake news, he actually owns half of them. So I don't know why he's saying that, these things are fake if he owns them.
What's fake? I'm sorry, I lost something.
Well, the Orange Nightmare in office says that everything is fake news.
Right.
Well, he owns half of them. He owns half the networks. He owns half the newspapers. He owns it. Or someone that is in cahoots with him owns it. So and I don't know who owns the New York Times, but if they're in cahoots with him, then why is he saying it's fake? Well, then that tells me that not everybody is complying to his wishes to only talk good things about him.
Well, yeah, there's a certain amount that the powers that be, the ruling elites, whatever you want to call them, a certain amount they'll tolerate. But when I think he's bringing a lot of backlash upon them, unwanted scrutiny that they don't want, and he's stirring the pot. He's kicked the hornet's nest, and so that's gonna bring about some backlash, a certain amount of backlash. So to that extent, I think they're more, it's not so much what he's doing as, he is just saying the quiet part out loud, like he's been doing that. Like Venezuela is a perfect example. It's like, oh, we're going in and we're going to take their oil. You know, it's like they used to have to like figure out ways to convince the public that it was a good idea to invade and kidnap a president or whatever. That's just one example, right? So I don't know that there may be a certain amount, but a lot of like, well, CBS now is like Larry Ellison and others like him now own all this broadcast media, and there's only like any mainstream media anyway is only owned by what's like 6 major corporations. So the heads of those corporations, I'm sure they're all on the same page basically.
Media is only a part of this, though, but because when you and I were talking about what our young people are being educated about, you have tended to say that, well, they're not getting the full picture, which I agree with. Now, I did not know this then, but then I also will mention, you know, if you want to go further in your ability to dissect political circumstances, events, you should take a political science course to which you had your response. And yet, and you have your response to education, and yet education, not everything about education is wrong.
Well, hold on. I'm not by any means, I'm not anti-education. My problem is what's being kept out of it. Like, what are they not telling you? That's what when we're talking about, whether we're talking about education, whether we're talking about media, it kind of amounts to the same thing. Is like, it's not what they say necessarily, it's what they're not saying. And so you have to sort of read between the lines if you want to be really savvy about all this.
Well, and also who you're listening to, because that was another contention that we both had, is that if you say, well, this person said this, it's like, well, who are they? Who are they to say that what they're, who are they to say anything? Like, what kind of education do they have? What kind of experience do they have? How do you know a source of information is really legitimate, is really educated enough to be speaking on anything?
Right. Well, that's a great point, and it's just.
And so that's why I always go back to a person's credentials. What are their credentials? How much education have they have? What was their education in? Because just because somebody does have an education doesn't mean that they have an education in political background in it. Do you know what I'm saying? That doesn't mean that they could be a professor of basket weaving and they can have this opinion. And just because they are a professor or they have a doctorate in basket weaving does not mean that they should be speaking or have any knowledge, any real knowledge versus opinion on something that's happening in the political arena.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and a credential is just a credential, you know? It's like, you have to look at everything. You have to take everything into consideration. I'll give you another recent great example. The Nobel Peace Prize, right? That it's not a credential, but it's like, it's supposed to lend some credibility to some individual.
Yes.
Maria Corina Machado. Hello. Would I go to her to look for what's for peace? What you think of, like these peacemakers throughout, like Gandhi or some, throughout history, Mother Teresa. I don't know.
And yet, somebody who has the Nobel Peace Prize, I would think, why wouldn't this person be a good person? And yet, I'm learning from many different sources, many different opinions, that people don't like her. And it's like, well, why? She won the Nobel Peace Prize. Isn't she for peace?
Right.
And why do you say that she isn't? I mean, I don't even know why she was elected as the Nobel Peace Prize winner. Why was she? Why was she given the Nobel Peace Prize?
Someone recently, one of my favorite YouTubers went all into. He did a whole episode, dedicated a whole entire episode on who are these winners of the Nobel Peace Prize throughout the last whatever. And I mean, yes, there are some people who won the prize who are legitimately like, you would think, yeah, they did a lot for peace. But then a lot of them they follow a certain trend. And I won't get it too far into the weeds, but suffice to say that all within the last, I don't know, 10, maybe 20 years, the majority of them are people who are pushing for regime change in certain X country that the United States deems desirable and would like to have someone else in charge, more friendly to their interests. So they all have this thing in common, this common thread throughout all these winners of the Nobel Peace Prize. And what did they really do? Well, I mean, you could argue, it's just like when the United States talks about freedom and democracy, right? That's when you reach for your shotgun.
Well, okay,
it's like
so
nobody believes it anymore.
Except, okay, so my question was, why did she win? And I just Googled it, and it said the Venezuela opposition leader Maria Corina Machado was awarded the 2025 Nobel Peace Prize for her courageous, nonviolent struggle to bring democracy to Venezuela.
Well, that's a lie right there. That's a bald-faced lie right there.
Why?
Nonviolent, because she was, in fact, and you won't. And this is again, you won't find this in the mainstream media, but there's been a huge number of independent journalists who covered what was happening during like the coup of Hugo Chavez and all that, aftermath and her role in that. And yes, it was violent. People lost their lives, but they don't talk about it. They leave that part out. So yeah, they can just say, they can just gloss it. Yeah. Okay.
I'm going to continue to read this. Let's see. Now, for her courageous, nonviolent struggle to bring democracy to Venezuela, uniting a divided opposition against authoritarian rule and advocating for a peaceful transition despite facing severe personal threats and being forced into hiding. Key reasons for her 2025 Nobel Peace Prize include defense of democracy. She was honored for keeping the flame, this is in quotes, the flame of democracy burning in Venezuela amidst increasing repression by the Nicolas Maduro government, unifying the opposition. Machado is recognized as a key figure who united a once divided opposition, acting as a symbol of hope for millions, according to the AP News reports. Okay, there you go. According to the AP News reports. Source. Resisting authoritarianism.
Authoritarianism?
Yes. Resisting authoritarianism. Despite being barred from running for president in 2024 and facing threats to her life, she remained in the country fighting for a peaceful democratic transition. Commitment to peace. The Norwegian Nobel Committee noted she embodies the ideas that tools of democracy are also the tools of peace and resisted the militarization of Venezuela's society. The committee recognized her. Let me finish, please. The committee recognized her as a defender of freedom who has shown immense courage.
This is making me ill.
The committee recognized her as a defender of freedom who has shown immense courage against a dictatorship.
Pure garbage. Absolute garbage.
Why?
Where are you reading this?
It's online. I just Googled it.
Google.
I Googled.
Okay, it's online, and that's good enough for you.
Well, it's good enough for most people. A lot of people, when they don't have a piece of information or they're wondering or questioning, they will take Google and they will type in the question. And the first thing they read, they take as gospel truth. So Please, when I'm trying to make a point, understand the difference between what the point that I'm trying to make and the fact that this is what they're giving us. The first thing that comes up in Google was this. So I scroll. Now we got the nobelprize.org. Do I want to go into that? No, I don't. In fact, most people, they'll delve a little bit, but they usually just look at the first thing that comes up. And that was the first thing that came up. So that's why I ask you. This is why I'm asking you. That's the first thing that comes up. That's the first thing that people are going to read. Maybe most of them don't question. like you would, why shouldn't I believe that? Where are you getting your information? Tell me one source that you're getting your information. All you said is independent journalists. Well, that could be anybody online too.
Well, do you want me to list them all? Would you even? Most people wouldn't even recognize if I listed the names or the publications.
So this is my question for you. This is the question that most people would ask you. If nobody's even heard of your resources, why should they believe them any more than they should believe the AI-generated bullshit on Google?
That's just it. You're either someone who believes that in order for something to be legitimate, it has to be well known and well established, right?
Right.
So there you go.
Well, this is what I'm saying. This is why I say, how can we be sure of anything that anybody is saying? And I'm sorry I'm getting loud here, but how can we be sure from your perspective, from his perspective, people, all he trusts are independent journalists. Well, how do you know that they know anything any more than an AI-generated line of crap? And so what he's calling
you have to, a couple of things. Well, first of all, you have to, consider the source, consider the motives.
Yes.
Who stands to gain from a regime change? Who would stand to gain from a new president of Venezuela that is more friendly to U.S. interest? Gee, I wonder. So a lot of it is like a simple rule you follow. Follow the money. Where's the money? Who's funding this news media? And that's a lot of things people will try to attack the left about. They'll say, this is a source that is funded by Russia and Putin. They love that. They love to do that all day long, all day, every day, 24/7. Oh, he's funded. Oh, they're probably funded by Iran. That happened during when everyone went to go out and protest against Netanyahu's visit to Washington. Everyone was saying, they're probably just funded by the Iranians. Like we don't have any, and we can't have like any like free thinking, independent, critical thinking skills on our own. We have to be funded by somebody to make all our decisions for us. It's it speaks volumes, really. But that's like a simple rule you follow. Like, okay, follow the money. Who's funding what? And we can see from the like 6 major news media organizations where the money's coming from. So, and a lot of times it's people who are invested in like arms sales, defense contractors, arms, weapons manufacturers, right? There's a lot. So yeah, you got to do digging that most people just don't have the time or interest or whatever to do. And so they just cut it short and they stop there. And that's, it's like, okay, well, they said it's good enough for me.
But most people, they wouldn't have that piece of information. I don't believe that most people think about who is funding what. Some people like yourself know to do that. They do. Other people that think like me think, well, what credentials you got? Who are you to be an authority on anything? Not like you personally. I'm just saying like any source of information, what are your credentials? So when I think about these things, and the whole Nobel Peace Prize thing, that was just an example. That's just an example. I'm just using that as an example of who are you supposed to trust? How would you know? And the greater issue here is, who can you trust, believe, or understand to be any real authority on any subject whatsoever that is literally of any importance that we're facing now? When you look at what is going on in Minnesota, my parents, for instance, they are old school. They are not online. There's still pieces of an entire generation that have nothing to do with social media, online news, independent so-called resources. They don't listen to that. They listen to CNN, MSNBC, their local news station on channel ABC, NBC, or CBS. okay?
Right.
Or maybe even C-SPAN. And they're not asking the two, what I'm getting out of this conversation is they're not taking these two things into consideration. Where is the money coming from? Who's profiting from the propaganda being offered? And actually, it's not and or, it's and now. What are their credentials? Are they just a Yahoo? Are they just, who are they? Are they some kind of a nut job? Because there's a lot of nut jobs out there. I'm sorry, but look at some of the people that he has in his administration talking for him. What is that one? Caroline? I don't even know her name.
Yeah.
The blonde.
There's a TikToker who has done many spoofs about her.
What is her name?
Great. I can't remember now.
Great. The speaker person, the blonde wonder.
Yes.
With no lips. The lipless blonde wonder. Who she lost her lips spewing her lies. I swear to God.
That's what happens.
Well, I'm saying people are tired. They are exhausted. They are now traumatized. And they don't want to do the delving. So when they look on their phone, when they pick up their phone and do exactly what I did and just Google, and they listen to this AI answer, which it was Google's AI generated. This is why she won. She was a great person. She was for democracy. She promoted peace. She was opposing an authoritarian, dictatorship.
Mm-hmm.
And people wonder why so many people think the way they do.
Yeah, I mean, we need more media studies. We need more propaganda studies, case studies.
And so I would
to understand like logical fallacies.
So I would say to all of you listeners out there, no matter how tired you are, no matter how exhausted and drained and you have no more bandwidth, when you are listening to some of the crap that is being spewed on social media, online, consider the source, not just where the money is coming from, but also what backing, what education, what credentials, who are they to be speaking about anything? Who hired them? Yes, who hired them? And why did they hire them? And stop reading out-of-date material. Consider what is current. Who are the players on the field right now?
And, vary your sources of information. We don't want to just get a diet of one. If you eat too much of one thing, no matter how good it might be, or bad in this case, it's you gotta diversify, compare and contrast. I'm
going to say this, and I know you're probably going to jump down my throat again, but I am one of those people who have a really hard time. I have had in the past a really hard time. Say, vary your sources of information. A lot of the times, my partner here, Nigel, he'll go to outside foreign news resources. And when I first met him, I'm like, you got to be crazy to be believing that. Why would you think that that is any less corrupt than our media? But what I have come to understand after knowing Nigel now for 4 years is this. It's not so much that there isn't also corruption, but they are seeing things that our own government does not want us to see. So it's not so much, like I said, that there isn't corruption, that they're not going to spin their angle, that they're not going to, and they do. I'm sorry, but all sources, other countries, they have their own angles that they want to portray. You can't say that isn't true. But the fact that they're getting information, that they're seeing things that are being done, that are being hidden from us, I can say now I believe that. I do believe that. So if you are one of these people that I used to be thinking, oh my God, don't go outside the US for your information. Nobody else is more trustworthy than us. Oh my God, please, please. I am one of those people who have gotten over that. As I started talking to the people that I actually know, one cousin who lives in Norway, another friend of mine who lives in Croatia. And when I started asking people who live way far away, what are you hearing? What are you thinking?
Mm-hmm.
And I was shocked when they showed me footage that we didn't get here. I was shocked to see articles in their local, go down to the grocery store and pick up a newspaper, and they would send me screenshots of their local headlines, and I was like, what? So there's my testimony to outsourcing your resources. This is a very scary time to be living here and not knowing who to trust, who to believe, or what you see. Because my own parents didn't believe that all that rioting was really that bad in Minnesota until I forwarded a video to my brother who showed it to them. And they're like, we haven't seen anything like this on the news. And I'm like, I couldn't believe that. See, I cut my cable because it was getting too much. I couldn't stand seeing his face on the television. So I literally cut my cable. And I only stream things that I have complete control over what I watch, which is not him. But then I don't know what's going on, what they're actually saying on the news. I now have antennas, digital antennas, and I now see what my parents see, and it's frightening.
Yeah.
What they're not seeing. I just don't know what to think these days.
Yeah. No, it is we're living in very frightening times, and we need more than ever different perspectives. You know, like a lot of German people are saying, this kind of what's going on in the US right now is kind of, there are some scary parallels for sure. And yeah. So inform yourself. Knowledge is power. Thanks for listening to Morning Musings and Midnight Chats with Nigel and Nat. If you have comments, questions, or ideas you'd like to share with us, call our voice message line at 303-731-6104. See you next time. Javi Media.